So my name is Jess Kennerson. I've been at Bentley for 13 years, and I am the Chief of Staff for our Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean Shepherdson. Also our Director of Strategic Planning, and I am one of the people who is managing the Bentley Plus program. All right, Ben, you're up.
All right, welcome everyone. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Look at this hybrid format that we're able to master. My name's Ben Longstreth. I'm going on about 2 years at Bentley, and I work in the office of the Vice President of Student Affairs as well. I'm the Assistant Director of Strategic Projects, and I co-manage the Bentley Plus program.
Awesome. So Ben's like a sophomore now. So if any of you have sophomore students, he's like feeling this, like came in December of, what was it, Ben, 2019, and then March, we were all remote. So you're feeling that pain too.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So this is our agenda for the day. We're going to lead with why are we doing this program? I think so often we just launch into what the program is and we don't do a great job of articulating why it's so important. We're going to talk about how the program came about, as well as what is this thing? And then go through a few student testimonials and then just open it up for questions. But first, I want to just get a sense, how many of you are families? Just by raise of hand. Oh, we got a lot. Okay, all right. Students, current students. Any alums? All right, a pretty good mix. We were gonna do a Menti poll, but then we decided it was just too much technology at once. I can like barely turn on a computer, so this is like really pushing me. So instead, for folks joining online, because we do have a number of folks joining through Zoom, you can write answers in the chat, but in this crowd, in person, I'll just ask for a couple of you to share. So why did you and your student decide to pursue a place-based institution like Bentley? And by place-based, we mean having residential halls, living on campus, not just taking classes remote from your basements, for example. Anyone want to share, why did you decide to go place-based instead of kind of a school that is all online? Yeah. Yeah, so I heard a couple of things, learns better in person and also full college experience, which for a lot of people, that means in classroom and out of classroom. I think I saw another hand up here, yep. Yeah, the community experience. All right. Well, you have come to the right place, not just Bentley, but Bentley Plus. We're going to talk to you all about how to get that community experience and how to extend learning from in the classroom, outside the classroom. So why Bentley Plus? So there's 5 main reasons. I was starting to stray. I don't know if you saw me. I was starting to come around. Okay. And then I saw a couple of you be like, no. All right. So we were trying to solve a few different problems here. One is we have noticed that our students in particular, they get involved in everything just to learn something. So if you have gotten an email from your student, as I have gotten many from your students, I scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll through the signature line, which lists 20 different organizations that people are involved in, with what we think is the hope just to learn some tangible skills and competencies to be able to articulate to employers. This is just not a great use of time, to be honest. And we think that there's much greater impact that if you got those 20 involvements down to just a few, but went really deep in each of those, more learning would happen. So we want to be able to proactively tell your students, if you join X, Y, or Z club, organization, attend a certain event, this is what you can expect to learn. We want to deliver on that promise every time. We've not, as a profession, so student affairs, been really great at describing what is student development. We do a lot of things. A lot of people think of student affairs as planning the big concerts. We do that. We just had one last weekend. But it's so much more than that. So we have 2 different facets to our work. One is extracurricular. That means those concerts that you're going to attend and just have the time of your life. And then we also do co-curricular, and that's what Bentley Plus is. These are events and opportunities where learning happens. So we balance both because there is a need to have both the social, but then also the learning. Also, historically, Bentley's been viewed as transactional and not transformational. And we know we're doing great work. We just haven't been able to package it in a way that is accessible to all students. And as you all probably can attest, there were some alums in the room, student populations are changing and we need to meet students where they are. People have varying levels of experience. We have a lot of first-gen students, international students. We have a lot of students who had parents or have parents who went to college, but colleges just feel so different now that even as families who went to college, you might not be able to help your student navigate the opportunities as much as maybe even 10 years ago. And finally, in a decade, our grads will be in jobs that haven't even been created yet. So we want to prepare them with learning different competencies that is not for this job that they're going to get in 1, 2, 3, 4 years. It's for the job in 10, 15, 20 years that hasn't even been invented yet. We want to get that learning and competency development started now. So we didn't just make this up, which is always better for you all. We did some research in NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. They did a study, and in the study, they were asking employers, what are the competencies or skills that recent grads lack? So what is it that you're spending money training the grads, the new employees on, that like, if we can give our students a leg up in college where they don't have to be trained when they enter the workforce, we're going to do it. And the survey suggested and demonstrated work ethic, leadership, and intercultural fluency as being the main deficits that recent college grads have. And you're going to see in a little bit that that's informed our program to make sure that we're teaching students that through the co-curricular experience. So we didn't just make this up in a very short amount of time, just throw it up there. We had 5 committee phases because it's higher ed and we do committees really well. We had 30 different staff members contribute to this across every department in student affairs. We have 13 different departments. And we tested this in a pilot last year, not knowing it was going to be a pandemic. So that threw us a little bit, but I think really prepared us well. And we had 650 students in the pilot that we were able to get some really great data to inform the full launch, which is happening now. I won't read this. Don't worry, you're not back in class, but there is a theoretical underpinning to this as well, self-authorship theory. So we were taking in the practical from like the NACE employer feedback, but then also a theoretical approach as well. So we looked at a bunch of different competencies, 24. I was trying to do that math, 16 plus 8, but I was a communications major, so that never works out for me. But I saw later on here, it says 24. We looked at 24 different competencies, 16 from AAC and U, which is what our curriculum is based on, and 8 from NACE, which is what employers want. And we selected 11 that we thought that student affairs, our area in the co-curricular realm, was uniquely positioned to deliver. We're not looking to stretch and do all 24. We said, what are we already doing that we know we can, again, deliver on that promise for students? And we narrowed it down to 11. So you can see on this graphic, we broke it down into 3 categories, and the 11 different competencies are listed there. You can see identity awareness, resilience, well-being, work ethic, critical thinking, ethical reasoning, problem solving, community engagement, dialogue, leadership, and teamwork. So competencies are knowledge, skills, or abilities that lead to superior performance. So this is a performance-based program. We want, of course, students to join the program for altruistic reasons of just saying, I really want to develop as a human. We are there for that. And also the fact that you will be better at your job. So we're trying to balance both of those motivating factors for students. So of the 11 competencies, this program is a year-long program, and you would pick as a student 2 to 3 of the 11 to focus on for that year. So if you're a first-year student, you could actually get through every competency if you wanted, if you went through Bentley Plus each of your 4 to 5 years, depending on your student. Or you could do the program for 1 year and say, I really have deficits in these areas. I'm going to really double down now. And learn more in this 1 year and get my certificate and be able to articulate that to employers. Again, we pulled this from research. We put it in all caps. We're pretty much yelling it to you because we want to make sure that, again, you know, this isn't just Ben and I sitting in our office saying, well, we think this is important. This is, again, coming from research that we've done. And a really exciting component of this program is all of the programs and opportunities are tagged with the competencies in a software called Campus Groups, which all students have access to and all families have access to. So if you're like my mom 20 years ago when I was in college, and she would call me and say, how's it going? And I'd be like, fine. And she'd say, what are you doing? What's there to do? And I would say, there's nothing really to do. If you have a student like that, I go to Campus Groups. Right now, there's 166 events and programs and opportunities already listed in Campus Groups for your student to get involved in. And all of those have the competencies tagged on them with Bentley Plus certified. So if your student is part of this program, you would just go to Campus Groups and you know exactly what to get involved in based on the 2 to 3 competencies you selected. We also have these icons that are on flyers and whatnot, so people can see if I was in the program working on leadership and identity awareness, I see those icons on a flyer. I know if I go to that program, I'm going to be developing in those 2 areas. All right, so again, we were going to do a mentee poll. That was beyond my capability for today. But I'm just curious, if I go back to the slide here, what are a couple of competencies that you think you would be interested in? If you were going through the Bentley Plus program today, what are you focusing on? Do these resonate with you? Are they outlandish? Are you like, where you said you did research, but I don't see it here? What are a couple of the most interesting to you? Critical thinking. Yeah, Dr. Crate was just talking about critical thinking at the town hall, actually. I was so excited. Leadership, our students love this competency, absolutely. Dialogue. Identity awareness, work ethic. Did you have one up here? I thought I saw the hat. Yeah, did you or no? Sorry, I thought I saw you raise your hand. All right, so a lot of different ones, yeah. Teamwork, absolutely. And that's something Bentley talks about so much with its group work, but what does it mean to be a good teammate or team member? Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome, community engagement. So it's looking like we did a pretty good job because y'all have mentioned different ones. And we have definitions for each of these. So this is not an ambiguous or vague term or concept. We're actually defining each one. So when someone says, oh, I'm good at leadership, that can mean a lot of different things. But when we talk about leadership as this program, for example, we're talking about something really specific. We also have stages. So we have 11 competencies, and we also know that students aren't coming in at the same level for each of these competencies. Resilience is a competency, for example. I am 39 and students probably have more resilience than me in certain circumstances, right? So I might be coming in at foundational of this program for resilience, and another student might come in at intermediate or advanced. So this is not a one size fits all program. It's really personalized to you and your own experience. And then I'm going to go through these really quickly because again, this isn't a class, but I do think that this is really important to show the synergy that we have outside the classroom with what's happening inside the classroom. So Bentley, through its new curriculum, which I'm not sure if you've heard of, but we're going through a curriculum review, defined 5 different learning goals like a couple of years ago that would inform all of the coursework at Bentley in our core. And rather than create new goals, in our world, we said, why don't we ensure that Bentley Plus is connecting to the learning goals that are happening in the classroom? So you can see the Bentley Plus competencies on the left and the 5 curricular learning goals on the right. And what we did is, to go through quickly, the ones in blue connect to that learning goal directly. So the first learning goal, we said that's a little bit of a stretch for us in our competencies. Again, we're not trying to fool anyone here. So we said, that can live in the classroom. They can take that. But for the second learning goal, apply a set of future focused skills. All of these fit that, right? The third learning goal, you can see a number of different competencies connecting to that learning goal. Fourth and fifth. So we really wanted to be intentional with what we were doing outside the classroom. So it was building upon what your student is learning inside the classroom. And then this is a collaborative approach. You'll probably hear this again and again at Bentley. We had, I said before 30, but it was actually 34. I was just trying to round it out. Different staff members contribute to this. We had 14 departments and student affairs involved. Over 100 staff members gave us feedback from across the institution. We've had faculty involved. Other divisions are now tagging Bentley Plus competency. So this is not just a student affairs thing at this point. And we've gathered feedback from the Board of Higher Education, which is a group of employers, so that they had input in the development of the program. And we've also involved our Board of Trustees. So they've had input in this program as well. All right, Ben, your moment is here.
All right. Well, Jess did a great job of giving you an overview of the why with the program, as well as how we developed this program. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about what this looks like. And we're going to kick things off with a commercial.
All right. Let's see. We'll see. I'm optimistic that this will work, but.
Bentley Plus, a program that lets you take charge and develop the right skill sets for your future success. Guided by our advisors, you'll discover both your strengths and areas to improve on. You'll be able to select from a list of 11 competencies that top employers have made essential to your success. We'll show you how the activities you're already involved in can help you grow. And we'll connect you with other campus opportunities to better define your skill sets. With Bentley Plus, you'll learn how to be strategic when developing competencies, both inside and outside the classroom, and how to communicate those marketable skills so that future employers take notice. Get the most out of your Bentley experience. Get certified with Bentley Plus.
All right, so just to give a quick overview, Bentley Plus at a glance, it's a co-curricular roadmap that is beneficial to all undergraduate students. So no matter what year your student is, they can benefit from this program. And I'll give a few examples later on with some student testimonials of that. It's connected to the university learning goals. And really the focus is providing intentional time for students to reflect on what they're actually learning outside of the classroom. It's one thing for your students to get really involved. It's another thing for them to be really strategic and intentional about how they're spending their time, and then making sure that they're equipped with the language and the tools to articulate the skill sets they're developing for future employers. It also provides guidance for students looking to add to their resumes, as well as students who are looking to provide some more focus to how they spend their time. There are 11 competencies to choose from, and then 3 advising sessions throughout the year, and I'll go into this a little bit more on the next slide, earn students their certificate in the competencies that they've selected. We have identified 40 staff advisors in the Division of Student Affairs to be specially trained in Bentley Plus. So they've gone through a training on the competencies, on the advising model. And these are staff with master's degrees in higher education and student development theory. So these are people who have dedicated their careers to student learning and growth. And so they're really well equipped to have these conversations and help your students navigate their college experience and really get the most out of it. 600 plus students were a part of the pilot program, which, like Jess said, really gave us some great data in terms of setting us up for success for this launch. So a year in Bentley Plus, like Jess says, each program is a year long. So if your student is a first year or second year student, then they have the opportunity to really participate in this and get multiple competencies throughout their Bentley experience. We knew when designing this program, your students are already involved. So we're not concerned about adding a lot to their plate. We're concerned about organizing this in a really intentional, strategic way. So Bentley Plus is not a huge add-on to a schedule, but it's really a way to be more intentional about how you spend your time. So that means 3 advising sessions throughout the year. The first advising session, which your students can sign up for right now, we've had 4 different advising sessions so far for this year, and signups just keep coming in, which is great. That is where they learn about the program, they develop an understanding of the different competency options, and they sit with a staff advisor and a small group of students to select those 2 to 3 competencies that they want to focus on this year. During that time, they also reflect on what campus opportunities they're already involved in, or if they're a new student, what is the lay of the land at Bentley? What are those opportunities that they can really dive into and learn from? So that's in the first session. After that, they do what they do best as Bentley students, and they participate and they get involved in campus. So they attend events, they join student orgs, they get an on-campus job, they develop an internship or volunteer with a community partner. They do all of these really robust experiences that lead to learning. But they do that knowing that they're focused on these 2 to 3 competencies. Advising session number 2 happens at the end of January or early February. During that time, we do what's called a competency deep dive. So the 2 to 3 competencies that they've focused on, we have a qualitative assessment that the students go through. It's scored with a rubric, and they learn what they're doing really well in the competency and what are some ways that they can continue to grow in that area. This is where we assign to them, like Jess shared, those 3 stages. So they'll get a foundational, intermediate, or advanced stage in that second advising session. So really what I like to summarize that second advising session as is a little progress report. After that, we have a final advising session at the end of the year. So they have this midterm progress report at the end of January, early February, and then we close up the year with a holistic reflection and really practicing marketing those skill sets to future employers. So we make sure that they feel really confident about not only the skills that they've developed, but also how they've developed that. They can point to specific experiences of how they've demonstrated those skill sets. And so they can go into those interviews feeling really confident. We use what's called a STAR method, which is an interview method that our career services office uses. We end the year with a celebration. We give them some good food, and we make sure that we give them their certificates at that time as well. An important thing to note about this is that it's designed with multiple on-ramps for maximum accessibility. So if your student is a first-year student and maybe missed the involvement fair, or is a second-year student and is like, last year was COVID, they didn't get really involved on campus, this is for them. This is for any student who's looking to really be intentional about developing their skill sets and making the most out of their experience. I think we now have a little story time from Jess Kennerson about why Bentley Plus maybe would have been really beneficial for her.
I think one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this program is because I wish that I had it at the school that I went to. So I went to Boston College a while ago. We'll leave it there. I was an athlete. So I was really involved in athletics my first couple of years. I went to the activities fair, but I was like a lot of athletes being like, I'm traveling all the time and I'm not gonna have time to do anything else. Okay, that was fine for 2 years. But what ended up happening was I decided after my sophomore year that I no longer wanted to participate on my team. Just wasn't getting from it what I wanted. I knew I wasn't going to be like an Olympic javelin thrower. I was a javelin thrower. And I thought like, maybe let me explore some other things. I'm going to study abroad. I'm going to do some other things. So I ended up leaving the track and field team. And then I was super lost. I had missed the activities fair because normally first year students go to the activities fair, maybe some sophomores, but at this point I was a junior. So I felt like a little weird going there. And I just felt like I wasn't getting a return on my investment. Like BC's an expensive school like Bentley, right? And I'm just like hanging out outside the class, hanging out with friends, but certainly not in a structured or I would say productive way. So I so badly wish that as a junior, BC had a program like this. Because this is the on-ramp that I would have been so beneficial and would have made me feel even more connected to my alma mater. I still love BC, but I just feel like I could have gotten more for the money. And I think this is exactly the part that was missing. So as Ben was saying, there's multiple on-ramps. We were so intentional because I was insistent on making this a little bit about my own college experience, that this is not just for first-year students. This is not just for sophomores. We've had juniors and seniors participate in the pilot, and you'll hear from Ben in a little bit of those student testimonials, that there is something for everyone. And in fact, when we advertised Bentley Plus through email this year, we did separate class emails because there is a different benefit for every class. So we're trying to personalize it as much as possible. And for any juniors out there at Bentley who are kind of, as Adam Grant might say, languishing like I was, this program is meant for you too.
So this ends with a Bentley Plus certificate. We make sure that they have something they're taking away from. We also provide them with some language to build on their resume. So they get certified in the specific competencies that they've selected for the year. And we work with them to, how do we incorporate this into your resume? As an employer, if you're looking over resumes and you see, oh, this person's certified in, for example, with Taryn on the screen here, leadership and teamwork, that might make you think a little bit about what this student is bringing, what skill sets this student is bringing to your company. So like I said, we're going to go into some student testimonials, and these are from students who participated in the pilot program last year, even during the peak of the pandemic. And so this first student is a second-year student, and they said, when I was a freshman, I signed up for everything and was expecting to go into my sophomore year feeling really overwhelmed with my schedule. I'm having that conversation with a lot of sophomores right now in our advising sessions. They signed up for everything under the sun, and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Bentley Plus helped me focus in and be more strategic with my time. It reminded me it's quality over quantity. An employer is going to get bored reading a 3-page resume or CV, but what they're looking for is those skill sets and those transferable skills that you can really apply to the job field. This was a first-year student athlete who didn't really do a lot other than their sport, similar to Jess Kennerson here. They went to a few additional events throughout the year, but that's kind of it. But really what value this added for them was that they realized they're learning a lot more about teamwork and leadership by being an athlete. It was helpful to just take time to talk about it. So thinking about, you're learning a lot of skill sets through that experience outside of the classroom as a student athlete. You're learning resilience, you're learning well-being, you're learning teamwork and leadership. You're learning those really transferable skills. But unless you're taking time to pause and reflect and practice articulating that, it's like you don't even have them. So it's really important that we're taking that next step. And then finally, this student, her name was Sam, and she was one of my advisees during the pilot. And she said, I'm a junior, so it was good for me to look at what I've done and what skills I want to develop more before my senior year job search. So for Sam, she was looking at her resume and saw some really clear gaps and important skills that she wanted to make sure that she was developing before she went into that job search. And Sam is a senior this year and participating in the program as well to get 3 more competencies before she graduates.
So that is the bulk of the structured part of our time together. We just wanted to give you all an opportunity to ask questions if you have any. Then I see there's 5 things in the chat. I don't know if you can access that and maybe take those, repeat them out if there's questions. And I can take any in-person questions if you have them.
Sounds great. Yeah, the first chat messages were all just engaging and contributing to the conversation, Jess. So there's one question, and that's, what is the time commitment for each skill chosen? I'm happy to take that one. Bentley Plus is a 3-hour commitment for the year. It's 3 really intentional advising sessions with a staff advisor and a small group of students. The time that you're developing those skill sets is outside of those sessions, and that's through your involvement experiences. So for every student, that's gonna look different. The students who really lean into their competencies will obviously maybe reach that intermediate or advanced level. And then those students who maybe don't take advantage of those opportunities as much throughout the program won't develop and won't have as many pieces to point to in those competencies. So we have a lot of tools along the way where we direct students to different opportunities and make sure that we're touching base so that way they're really keeping this top of mind throughout the year. But there's not one specific time commitment for each competency other than those 3 advising sessions.
So one thing that we did want to initially bore you with was learning outcomes, which is something that we all have master's degree in student development theory, so we go a little wild with the learning outcomes. But we actually have 88 learning outcomes for this program, so which you don't need to see the breakdown of that. But it is to say that assessment is a big part of what we do. So we have a rubric based on the learning outcomes and how when a student is articulating what they have learned in a semester, both verbally and written down. There's a little like self-reflection piece. Our advisors are trained in how to pick out key terms and determine what stage they're in based on the learning outcomes. So we have learning outcomes for each stage, essentially. So we can determine, I think you get the idea, but like they have mentioned something in advanced and something in foundational, and we have a formula by which an advisor can determine exactly where they place on stages. We go right behind first. That's a great question. I actually think it's both.
And Jess, do you mind? Jess, do you mind just repeating the question for those joining online?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not going to do nearly as good of a job as you just said, but is the Bentley Plus certificate really meant to be a resume builder, something you put on your resume, or is this something to be kind of bigger than that, where businesses or companies might see Bentley Plus and know what it is? And is that about right? And I do think it's both, which is a total cop-out. I'm aware of that. But we obviously will be having students put Bentley Plus on their resume. But in tandem with that, we're communicating with our Board of Trustees and the Board of Higher Education to ensure that the folks that hire our students the most know what this program is. So, I mean, it's always good for someone to see Bentley Plus certified. What does that mean? And ask a student the question. But we think that we're going to get to a point, particularly after this year, when we have, after the pilot, and we've got 1 full year of assessment data, we think that we'll have a lot to show potential employers, that we can kind of do a roadshow with them so that they'll know exactly the weight that carries. Because I've been at Bentley a long time. I will never put something out there in certificate form that would diminish the value of a degree from Bentley. So I am hyper aware of, if we are saying you are Bentley Plus certified, we are meaning you have put in the work and you have learned something. So that is the kind of commitment that we have.
Hey, Jess, we have a couple on the screen as well.
Okay, so I'll take this one and then we can go to a couple and such a good question. So the question was, for some students, there might not be the self-reflection or practice of self-reflection to know what competencies you might want to select. Is that about what you're saying? So yes, that is true. And that's exactly what we're trying to build, is a practice of self-reflection. I always say to Ben, we work together very closely, that our students and often our staff don't realize that pause is a verb. right? And that in itself is an action, which I'm a big proponent of, but that's neither here nor there. We have had a number of advising sessions already, a lot of first-year students coming through. I've done 2 of them in the last week. And one, I can tell you students have been so excited, and I'm not just saying that for this program, but they are really excited about it. And they've asked advisors. I've had students say, I'm between 5 of these. I need to narrow it down to 2 or 3. Can you tell me some examples? What does critical thinking actually mean? What does ethical reasoning mean in practice? So they're asking great questions, which is exactly what we want them to be doing throughout the process. So I have not run into it, Ben. I don't know if you have an example. I've not run into a first-year student or any student who has not been able to talk it through with an advisor and get some real-life tangible examples of what some of these competencies mean. Did you say that's accurate, Ben?
Absolutely. That's the point with the staff advisor being there, is that they've undergone, they're very familiar with not only the competencies and definitions, but also the learning outcomes associated, as well as the opportunities on campus. So our advisors are well trained to, that's really their bread and butter. Is having those reflective conversations. And we don't assume that students are going to come into those sessions knowing, I want these three competencies. Some of them do, but I think there's more value in that really critical self-reflection in that moment. Yeah, that sounds good. So online we have, is there still an opportunity to participate this year? Absolutely. We have, this is an ongoing sign-up process. We have scheduled advising sessions from now through the end of October for the first advising session. So I would say the earlier the better, just to make sure that you're getting the most out of your experience and your students can really dive into their competency development early on. But students can join anytime this term, and we'll make sure that we have that advising session for them before the spring term begins. And then another question is, are sessions available in person or by Zoom? There are options for in-person, and then there are also options for Zoom. So we have a few students who are actually, taking their classes completely remotely by being international students and weren't able to make it back this year. And what we're doing with them is making sure that they are developing their competencies through internships, through jobs, through other opportunities in their home country, to make sure that they're actually developing those competencies. So that's a little bit of a unique approach, but we have opportunities in Zoom and in person.
Yeah. Great question. No wonder your students are so active in these Bentley Plus advising sessions to see where they get it from. So Ben and I meet bi-weekly with our career development center. They're doing a design thinking pilot now, which they can speak quite a bit about that, but it's really about more major and minor driven and career driven than Bentley Plus is really about general development and how you apply that to career. So we are incorporating our programs and making sure that there's overlap. Ben and I had a meeting this week. We were both so excited because we found a really obvious way for conversation to link the programs very solidly. So it's not like it kind of connects, like those programs will be connected, which is really, really exciting. Academic advising, they're focused mostly at class selection. So I see that as an opportunity. So admittedly, we have not had ongoing and sustained meetings with academic advising. They have kind of 15-minute meetings with students and getting a lot of folks in. So we haven't talked about how in those spaces we can bring Bentley Plus into the equation, but I do see that as an area of opportunity. I've had conversations with the faculty of our first year seminar, for example, and we're looking to get into that curriculum moving forward so that all students have some exposure to Bentley Plus and they can decide if they want to move forward. And that would be a direct connection to the curriculum and academic advising.
Hey Jess, is there a mic that you're speaking into that is picking up? A few of our participants online are saying that they're not hearing you super well.
This might be better. I'll just get closer.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's great.
Sorry
Thank you.
about that. So I think we had a question there and then over here. That's a great question. So the question was for the advisors, essentially, like where do they come from? Are they internal, external, academic? Not. They're internal, and they are Bentley student affairs professionals, all with master's degrees in student development theory. So like myself, I went to BC for undergrad and grad school, have a master's in higher education administration, learned a lot about the importance of student development. I am a Bentley Plus advisor, and this is written in job descriptions. So this is not like other duties as assigned. This is central to your role as a staff member. Yeah. So Ben, I don't know if you've heard that, but I think we've got someone hired soon. So someone had just mentioned that each one of those competencies could be almost like have a lecture based on each one, like almost like TED Talk style, because they're also important. And that way we can also, you don't even have to be part of Bentley Plus necessarily to sign up for the critical thinking TED Talk, in your book. So we'll connect after. Maybe get you on the payroll. That's a great idea. Go there and then in the middle. It's a great question. So how many competencies can a student select per semester? And we do 2 to 3 per year. So it's actually it's a year-long program to get the certificate because you have to go through all the advising sessions, and those are kind of key markers throughout to give students time to reflect and participate. So you would like the advising session that I just did, I think it was on Friday. Students walk away with the 2 to 3, depending if they want to do 2 or 3, that they were going to focus on for the rest of the year. So it's not just the 2, one for one semester, another semester. It's a 2 to 3 throughout. Yes. Love this person. I am loving the honesty, Ben. So someone was talking about having a second-year student, a sophomore, who really needs this program, but through COVID and kind of the lack of in-person experiences is not signing up for things, even though it might be beneficial to them. And a lot of people, I saw some head nods, I heard some giggles, so I'm thinking that resonates with a lot of people. Do you have any thoughts on how to get those students who might really need the program, but who are a little more apathetic to signing up?
Yeah, I think that the beauty of Bentley Plus is that it's 3 hours for the year in terms of the advising sessions. So we hope that during that first advising session, I think we've done a really good job of inciting some excitement. So if we could just get them in the door for that first advising session, I think we do a really good job of building some excitement around their professional development. And I think that so my advice for parents who maybe their student is a little bit reluctant is get them in the door. If we can get them in that first advising session, I think our staff will do a phenomenal job of getting them bought in to the rest of the year. I see this as an entryway to those opportunities that we want them to really take advantage of.
Two things to add. One is sometimes students are reluctant to join something they think they're the only one. We have in the first 2 weeks of the class, in the first 2 weeks of the class, we have about 300 people have signed up. So this is something that very early on people are gravitating towards. So if your student is a little hesitant because maybe they don't think it's, I don't know, other people are doing it, people are. So that's one thing. The other thing is, again, I always err towards I want altruistically want to join this just to prove themselves. That's just the person I am. But quite frankly, like our students want to get jobs, and this will help them get a job. So I think sometimes, while I don't love to lead with that, if that's what gets them into the door, I am so confident in this program that that mindset will change once they're in. That if that's the thing that you as a parent need to use to get them to sign up, I'm that confident in the program that they'll stick around. That's a great question. Ben, I'll toss this over to you as well. So the question was, for the competencies that you select, can you apply them to internships or experiences you had in the past, or should it be experiences that you're having now?
The thing about the stages is that we try to account for where students are coming in with. So we know that not every student is going to be at foundational. They wouldn't be at Bentley if every student was at foundational in every competency. So the answer is absolutely. What I think part of that first session is reflecting on what are you currently doing or what have you done that has already helped you develop in this way. So the first session, we really do take a pause to think, where am I currently at with this? And then that second session, doing a little bit more of that qualitative assessment to know exactly what level you're at. And so absolutely, experiences that they're coming in with, that's a part of, their whole self. That's a part of, what they're selling to future employers. Their experience doesn't just start with Bentley or start with their first time at Bentley Plus.
It's like I planned her. This is perfect. All right, so for folks looking to where you can sign up, or not, this is a family member, but maybe that's Bentley Plus 2.0. I don't know. Ben is gonna explode. Don't worry, Ben. You're fine. We have a Bentley Plus website that is very robust. It has all the competencies, exactly what students need to do. It's got the commercial. We're very proud it's in 5 different languages for folks who might have access to different ways. There is a button that says sign up. So you would literally just press the button on the website and fill out the form. I think it's a free form then, right? Just like email essentially. And then Ben will be reaching out to them to get them into their practice session. So I wish I put a slide on here, but if you just go to the Bentley website and put in the search Bentley Plus, I believe it is miraculously one of the first links that comes up, and you'll see Bentley Plus website. Questions? So the question was, I believe, what I heard you say is that we're partnering with student organizations to deliver competencies, and how do student organization members know how to interact with Bentley Plus and those competencies current? Is that right? Kind of. Okay. Yep. Awesome. All right, Ben, you want to take this one too?
Yeah, so with our student orgs, that development is really, or that knowing where you've grown in those competencies comes in the reflection. So that's kind of after the fact. Our student orgs, we know that they're going to learn in different competencies, but we have over 120 student orgs on campus and they all operate differently. So students are going to get different competencies from those. The point is that if they're in a student org, we focus on the reflection of that experience to identify how you're developing your competencies. So that's one thing. The student org piece is only one part of Bentley Plus. We have over 100 staff members in the Division of Student Affairs who hire your students to be RAs or orientation leaders or provide internship or job opportunities on campus, as well as different events. All of those things are being assessed in the Bentley Plus competencies, and those are really the things on campus groups that are tagged with the competencies. So yes, the student org piece is really beneficial, and your student we'll make sure your students reflecting on the competencies that they're developing as a part of that. But when we're directing students to different experiences, if they're looking to add to their experiences, they'll be doing things that are provided by staff. And the staff are trained on the competencies and making sure that they're hitting those learning outcomes in those experiences.
Some student orgs that have staff members as advisors as part of their job description. Committee's board is one. So that would be a student org where it could be tagged with Bentley Plus and have because the staff member is charged with development and implementation of that group, whereas a smaller group who has a staff member as an advisor would have been someone in a different division who's, just has an interest in the topic, doesn't have the theoretical background that we might, that would not be tagged. So it does kind of depend on the organization.
As well as the role that your student takes in the student org. So for example, if your student is the marketing chair for a student org versus the president of a student org, competency development might look different. And so really what we do is during those advising sessions say, what is that position leading to? How can you intentionally develop your competencies in that position?
You all have been fantastic. I will be here if anyone has any additional questions, comments, also concerns, brainstorm ideas if you're looking for like a temp job or something. Feel free to find me up here. But thank you all so much. Hopefully I'll see you at the